I have just the man in mind. But be careful, this doctor of psychiatry isn't just a perennial favorite among the inmates at dear old Arkham Asylum. He's also a client. Today on the Comic Book Report, Batman, Joker's Asylum. Stick around and check it out. Greetings from Gotham, everyone. My name is Dominic, and you're watching the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today we're taking a look at a new trade paperback collecting Joker's Asylum Part 1 and 2. If you're interested in this title or other collected editions, I encourage you to check out our channel sponsor, Organic Price Books. Use code TheComicBookReport at checkout to save $2 off of your order. When you use the code or referral link, I do earn a small commission. Thank you for supporting the channel. Now let's get to the review. Here are some quick facts about today's collection. The issues in this volume were written and illustrated by various different creators. The issues themselves were published by DC Comics beginning in 2008. This volume collects from Joker's Asylum Part 1, Joker Issue 1, Penguin Issue 1, Poison Ivy Issue 1, Scarecrow Issue 1, Two-Face Issue 1, and from Joker's Asylum Part 2, The Riddler Issue 1, Harley Quinn Issue 1, Mad Hatter Issue 1, Killer Croc Issue 1, and Clayface Issue 1. This standard size trade paperback comes in at 248 pages. At this time, I'd like to issue a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the contents in today's collection and commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Okay, and here's our first look at that trade paperback collection from DC Comics. I'm happy to report that this standard size collection does have glossy print paper stock. And I have to say, this is my first glossy printed DC comic in quite some time. And that is very exciting to me. Here's a quick look at that spine. Nothing too remarkable here, but I like the little design work, all the little playing card kind of logos on the side. Very, very cool and stylish. And as we finish with the spine and transition onto the back cover, we can take a quick look at some of the different cover art for some of the issues in this collection. Very, very neat, kind of wets our whistle a little bit as to what this collection may entail. Overall, really like the presentation of the book. I think the exterior artwork is really nice. And now that we're done with the exteriors, I did want to spend one moment looking at the book's binding. Now this is a glued binding, it's not sewn or anything like that. Pretty straightforward, but I really didn't have much complaining here. Not a ton of gutter loss overall, just a really nicely made standard trade paperback. As we dive into the collection proper, you'll see a little table of contents that goes over all the creators. This is where I recommend you pause if you want to take a look at all of the people that contributed to the issues in this book. There are so many, and frankly, that's part of the charm of this title. So as we dive into Batman Joker's Asylum, I'll just give a brief context as to what this book even is. So as stated previously, Batman's Joker's Asylum, this trade paperback collection, includes both Joker's Asylum Part 1 and 2. Both of these miniseries are constructed in identical ways. Effectively, the Joker is our guest. He's our host, and he's the curator and narrator of all the stories that unfold throughout this book. Each issue inside focuses on one villain in Batman's rogues gallery, and we're treated to kind of an inner layer, an inside look into the minds and hearts of these characters, and they're just almost like a sequence of short stories. And these little vignettes, like I mentioned, are all sort of framed by the Joker, who is playing a host in the same way the Crypt Keeper plays a host in Tales from the Crypt. It's that similar vibe. Each story sort of begins with the Joker sort of beginning his narration, talking to us directly from the audience and kind of hinting at whom we will be looking at in the issue, in any given issue. So he'll frame the narrative and then we dive right into the storytelling. And while these issues vary wildly in kind of theme and character design, characters themselves with the authors and the illustrators just varying issue to issue. They all begin with this Joker framing device, and at the end they all wind up back into the framing device with Joker kind of giving a little bit of a wrap-up or epilogue or moralism, or I guess amoralism. But the point is, each of these stories is kind of a tragic tale that explores sort of the tragedy surrounding each of these characters. And I thought that it was a really effective book. It ended up being a very diverse little collection and something that really stands out on my Batman shelf. Overall, I was really pleased with this collection. It definitely really had some punch-out stories throughout it, but it did vary in quality a bit for me. I found myself, more interested in certain characters over others, or certain issues rather than others, even if they weren't the characters I expected to really care about. And that was really based on the strength of the writing or the art style, how I felt it matched each of the characters, and really the stories involved. Some of these really surprised me and really were gripping in a special way, and I'll get into that in a little bit, some of my favorite issues in this collection. As far as just the over quality of this book, though, having the Joker as our guide and our unreliable narrator really just sets you off balance. The whole collection is just slightly disturbing, slightly insidious, and just a little bit, it just keeps you ill at ease. I don't know how to describe it. You're very aware that you are in Joker's storytelling, and there's this feel that you're just sort of off. The way the stories are told, the way they're framed, you just can tell that it's really meant to be sympathetic with the villains, and it's just a little skewed. I think that there is so many layers to this kind of storytelling in this collection in general, especially when a lot of these stories are sort of a moral tale where the villains are really humanized in such a way that a lot of times you're asking, who are the real monsters? Are they the regular citizens, these people that think they have the moral authority and high ground? Or are they the supervillains that, cause all these crimes? Of course, it's easy to say, hey, these criminals are horrible, but what's so creepy about this collection is it makes you care for them in new ways. It makes you see them as people, no matter how monstrous they may look, like in the case of Killer Croc. It never justifies their actions, and bad is still clearly bad in this collection, but it does make you care more for these characters. It makes you feel attached, it makes you feel sympathetic in ways that not a lot of Batman stories make me care for these characters. I think in that way it really serves it just serves the characters well that Joker's the one framing these stories, presumably. I think that kind of attention to detail and that kind of character work and that sort of meta commentary and narrative really just helps frame this collection differently than, again, a lot that I see on my shelves. I get to see these villains in new ways. Some of the storytelling feels a bit slice of life, but in villain circles. We're not following Batman. We don't have his internal monologue. We don't have Alfred and the gadgets and the Bat family. We don't have, the street of Gotham from Batman's perspective. We're following each of these villains, like kind of days in their lives and them trying to overcome their own personal struggles or try to find their own ends that are maybe not mustache twirling evil, but them just trying to be people or maybe falling into the same habits or trappings of their criminal life and their wrong paths. And again, it's just really interesting how it was done. It's hard to explain outside of reading it yourself, but it makes you care about the villains in Batman's Rogues Gallery in a new way. That really does help me just shine a different kind of light on these characters that really, it's going to inform the way I look at them moving forward in some respects. As far as some of my standout issues, or the issues that really left the most impact upon reading this, I think some of my favorites are the Two-Face issue, the Mad Hatter issue, and of course the Killer Croc issue. These 3 issues were probably my top 3 favorites in this collection, although there were so many others that I thoroughly enjoyed. Again, this is a series of vignettes, a series of short stories, and each one of them only loosely tied together by Joker's framing device. Otherwise, you're looking at an entirely different storytelling, and just characters that they focus on, with different authors, different pencilers, different colorists, all things like that. So what makes these 3 my absolute standouts? I think with Two-Face, I really loved how they explored the nature of what is really good, what is really evil, and what is the line between those two, and ultimately what role does fate play in all of this decision making. The issue basically sets up with a man who was horrifically disfigured in a way not too dissimilar to Two-Face himself. He has all these facial scarrings and all these things like that. He visits Two-Face while he's in Arkham Asylum and tries to tell him, hey, just because you've been disfigured by this incident doesn't mean you have to go off and be this crazy psychopath. You can actually be an upstanding person, have real relationships, and have a fruitful life. Two-Face is not moved, he feels a little bit patronized, things like that. Eventually, he gets out of Arkham and he pays a visit to this other disfigured man. He basically ties him up with his wife and sort of gives him an ultimatum. He kind of tries to usher that feeling of fatalism that he ascribes to, and just the idea of chance and that flip of the coin kind of randomness. And the whole story just leaves you feeling a little bit scummy, might not be the right word, but a little bit just off kilter. It has a really unhappy ending in a way that just kind of breaks down your optimism, and it's really kind of tragic to see that other man who started so rosy and cheerful, trying to encourage the best of natures for Two-Face, get kind of dragged down low into his world. But I found it to be just a really striking story. The art style I thought was really detailed. I loved the pencil work. I think they were really great character models. And overall, just such an effective story that really just stayed with me after reading this collection. The next one I want to talk about is Mad Hatter. This to me had one of the better art styles just for its surrealism and sort of weird experimental qualities. I would say this one and the Scarecrow issue, which of course really feel like they fit the characters. Mad Hatter being kind of a psychotropic, mind-controlling, Alice in Wonderland themed sort of villain, and of course Scarecrow with all of his machinations with fear and the fear gas and distorting your mind and things like that. It makes sense that those two issues would maybe be the most avant-garde artistically, and so I really love seeing that. What sets Mad Hatters apart to me is sort of the narrative style where we follow Jervis Tetch, the Mad Hatter, trying not to succumb to his darker nature and sort of his psychosis, trying to find his Alice, ultimately succumbing and using all of his ploys, kidnapping another young woman, and this whole just perpetuation of his cycle of violence and crime. But the way they really zoomed in and focused on this character himself, you really feel a little bit of sympathy. Of course, you don't ever agree with him, you don't ever follow him down the rabbit hole, so to speak, but you do see just that he tries to struggle and fight for what is right in his head, but he ultimately just succumbs to, again, this kind of psychosis he has. I think that it does a pretty good job of echoing and mirroring what we saw in the Batman animated series for Mad Hatter. Maybe that's why I enjoyed this story so much, but at any rate, I think it was really haunting, gave me the creeps, and I really enjoyed the story. Finally, the last one I wanted to talk about was the Killer Croc issue. It was sort of modeled after Beauty and the Beast, but it really is more of a love triangle situation where Killer Croc gets out of the asylum and he kind of joins up with this guy who's trying to be an up-and-coming mob boss as sort of his enforcer. The mob boss is tied to, I think, his girlfriend or wife, and Killer Croc kind of slowly falls for her. He sees that she's being mistreated by her man, this mob boss, and it's just these really kind of unhealthy dynamics that spring up between the three of them. At any rate, one of the things that stood out about this issue to me is it really explored who is the monster and who is humane, and the idea of both of those concepts. You're led to think that Killer Croc would be the most monstrous, inhumane character, but it's really the human characters that really have the more monstrous aspects in this storytelling. Don't get me wrong, Croc still does a lot of horrific, violent actions, but you see this kind of nobility of character as he's trying to do right by these people who he calls his friends, versus those people are just backstabbing each other, and it's just a really convoluted, interesting story. I really felt for Killer Croc's character in this, and overall, just really well done. And like in most short story collections, for me it's the brevity that really speaks volumes. I was really amazed at how well these three stories and the remaining stories in this collection just told such dynamic, gripping stories in just a matter of a few pages. Like I said, you have that framing device from the Joker at the beginning and end, but everything in the middle is its own unique story with its own primary cast of characters, and I was left totally gripped by these stories. Again, some are creepy, it gives you that sort of eerie feeling, but overall, it was just such a striking collection. And while I did showcase those three comics in particular, some of the other ones like Harley Quinn's issue where she's just trying to reunite with Joker on Valentine's Day, or Poison Ivy going on a rampage, or just Riddler riddling, and obviously the Scarecrow issue, like I mentioned earlier, that's a bit kind of modern, arty, abstract. This is just a really well-rounded collection, and if you know what you're getting, I think Batman Joker's Asylum could definitely fit comfortably aside anyone's Batman comic bookcase. And toward the back of the collection here, we have the last issue I'm flipping through right now, which is, of course, that Clayface issue. This was a lot of fun as well. The idea that the washed-up movie star who became Clayface inspired sort of a cult of young people who were film fans, who were outcasts, who wanted to join him and be part of his cause. Really creepy stuff. I think that the inclusion of Batman throughout this story in particular felt the most like a Batman book to me of everything in this collection. Ultimately, a great way to round out this collection as a whole. And I think I might have mentioned it earlier, but after reading Joker's Asylum, which includes part 1 and 2 in this trade paperback, I really wish we'd see a part 3, a part 4. I'd love to see this treatment with characters like Ra's al Ghul, or Bane, or Hush, or Red Hood. The list goes on, but for now I'm happy with what we have in this little volume, and now that we've finished it, all that's left to do is to give this collection a grade. For a fiendishly curated trip through some of Batman's most terrific villains, the Comic Book Report is happy to give the Batman Joker's Asylum trade paperback collection a B+. This quick little anthology series was one that I'm sure I'll revisit in the future. As a longtime Batman fan, this is the kind of collection that really sets itself apart. Not really focusing on Batman, but instead favoring just bringing more sympathy and light to some of his most fiendish villains. A collection like this really fills out the world in the Batman universe. And with so many incredible creators throughout, it always left me just enjoying the shuffle. If you've read Joker's Asylum, let me know what you think in the comments below. And for everyone else, thank you so much for watching. This has been the Comic Book Report. Before you go, please don't forget to leave a like and consider subscribing to my channel. Until next time, have a good one.